exit part, which was confusing because I was such a big
Yeah, it's scary. Just a variety of horses that you just can't.
And we were waiting on our
About 2 minutes, I think.
yeah, so
So if you much bigger,
got about 5 minutes left.
Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Man, thank you guys so much for having me out here. I've been in Colorado 33 years and I've never been to this section. I only hear the wonderful stories of it, and I'm so glad to have made it. So, it is 9:17 in the morning. If you're anything like me, you spent your last weekend like starting to get into your summer groove, and this is somewhat of an interruption of it. And I will do my best to keep you attended, hopefully give you something to go home with. So before we get started, can I get everybody on your feet? Let's wake up a little bit. So with my students, I try to do this every now and then when I feel like we need to get some courage, when we need to get a good laugh, when we need to get some energy in the room. How many of you guys are fans of superheroes? Any superhero fans out there? It's all right to raise your hand. Nobody's going to judge you. We won't judge you. All right? But every superhero has a pose. So we're going to have you guys superhero pose just for a couple of seconds. If you've never superhero posed before, it's going to give you some amazing energy. You never felt like this. You'll feel like a cape is flowing behind you. You feel like you're about to leap and web sling from building to building. It just feels good. So on the count of 3, you have to think of your favorite superhero now. And on the count of 3, you have to pose like your favorite superhero. Now, I tell my kids this all the time. You got to turn off your cool. All right? Don't be too cool to pose. Turn your cool off. It's all right. All right? And on the count of 3, we superhero pose. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes. Soak it in. Right on. It feels good. It feels good. All right. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat. Like I said, thank you so much. And let's get into it. So, the original Superman movie, Sliders, Groundhog's Day, Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Adventure, Project Almanac, Doctor Who, and my personal favorites, Back to the Future Parts 1, 2, and of course, The Old West, Part 3. What do all these movies have in common? All you nerds, I'm sure, know time travel. And I am here today to talk to you all about time travel. Now, don't worry, you will not need a Stargate, you will not need a phone booth, you will not need a DeLorean fitted with a flux capacitor traveling at 88 miles an hour, powered by 1.21 gigawatts of energy. No, all you'll need, you already possess, because you are teachers, and teachers are time travelers. Teachers are masters of going into the past, remembering the lessons and the places they've been, bringing them into their present-day classrooms, and influencing the future. We are truly time travelers. So for a few moments, I would like for you all to go back in time with me so I could tell you how I got to this present. As you guys heard earlier, I am a Colorado native, born in, I'm sorry, but the greatest city in the world, Aurora, Colorado. And I was born blessed with two of the best parents any child could ever ask for. They loved me unconditionally. They supported me in any and everything that I wanted to do. And they busted their butts to provide me and my brother with a middle class lifestyle in which we truly wanted for naught. Which was why it was strange by the time I was in the second grade, I was being considered a problem. Daily removals from class. Now that we would call them a refocus. Back then it was called get the hell out of my class and go next door or some way in the hallway. My parents, because they loved me so much, they wanted to make sure I had the best education I could get. So by the time I was in the second grade, I was already reading and writing slightly better than some of my classmates. So I would finish my work, lickety-split, and then my bored 8-year-old self would find anything or anyone to mess with until I got sent for a refocus. So as a result, my parents were getting a lot of calls from school, and they were having to visit the school a lot more often than they would have liked, which was confusing because I was such a great kid at home. Great kid. But at school, I was being labeled a terror. Imagine this. A terror? No way. Maybe. So what was the solution? As advised by the school, they said, William needs to get a psychological examination. So there I was, 8 years old, in front of a psychiatrist, once a week for a couple of months, until I was diagnosed with ADHD. And the solution? Medication. If I was in the second grade in 2011, I would have been one of 6.4 million kids diagnosed with ADHD, and a part of the 69% whose ADHD was solved with medication. And so began my 7 years of being a misunderstood, like so many other students, drugged child. It made me feel like a zombie at school, and it made my friends wonder, what the hell is wrong with you? I went from being this kid who jumped, played, laughed, to this kid who was suddenly drawn in and quiet, and like with a weird type of hazy focus. But it built a contempt for school. These teachers who were supposed to be fellow time travelers were supposed to understand me, but they treated me like an outcast. My friends were like, dude, what is wrong with you? Last week you were cool as hell. This week we don't know. But before you start all your woes and me's, oh, William, I'm so sorry. Know this, I still love life. I love life because of all the love and support that I got at home, and because I still had friends. But the interesting thing was about me and my friends at school, we all had to make the same stop on the way to lunch at the nurse's office to get our medication. So we fast forward to my 7th grade year, and I met an exceptional time traveler by the name of Mr. Gear, affectionately known as Mr. G, our social studies teacher. Mr. G was one of the first teachers that made me feel like it was okay to be me. My weird, what I thought was cool, nerdy self could just be me. He listened to me, we laughed, and most importantly, he knew I didn't need to be medicated. So, let's fast forward to today. Today, I teach social studies, just like Mr. G, in Denver Public Schools at Manual High School. The school started in 1894. And we are here trying to turn around one of the lowest performing schools in the district. And I have a fire that's burning in me that all came from this exceptional time traveler, Mr. G, who planted the seed. From 7th grade, 20 years ago, I hate saying that. I know I'm a young Thundercat, but when you say things are 20 years ago, you kind of feel it rubs you a certain way. I've brought back the lessons from 20 years ago from Mr. G throughout my life and to this very stage. And every day I enter my classroom, I time travel back in time and bring back other lessons from other teachers that help me better connect and better educate my students. I bring back the lessons from my kindergarten teacher who treated me like I was one of her own children. And now I make sure to put love first in every class that I teach. I bring back the lessons of misunderstanding from my 2nd grade teacher. So now when I'm in my classroom, I make sure I know who my students are and where they come from long before I make any decisions that could affect them far beyond my reach. I have brought back the lessons from Mr. G and use those directly in my classroom to make sure every one of my kids knows it's perfectly okay to be exactly who you are. And the lessons don't stop. The lessons from my high school avid teacher, Mr. Roundtree, who was the first guy who showed me that nerding out on stuff was cool. And now me and my students nerd out on everything. Comic books, shoes, sports, girls and their heartthrobs, guys and their crushes. We all get to be experts, and it's beautiful. I will never forget the lessons taught to me by the Miss Stephanie Rossi, one of the greatest time travelers this planet has ever seen. And the lesson she taught me was how to talk to my kids. And I mean like really talk to my students. And so now we have genuine, authentic, text-based, critical conversations about the things that happen in this world. We laugh at the funny stuff, we cry at the tragedies, and we get upset and we question how the world could ever get how it is now. And one of the greatest lessons I've learned that I will forever take came from a time traveler who's an administrator, my principal, Mr. Dawkins. And he taught me, we teach kids, not content. We teach kids, not test. We teach people with hearts, ideas, minds, who do amazing, dynamic, life-changing things. We do not teach data points. So I ask you, fellow time travelers, where were your lessons traveled to? Your lessons is math, science, English, social studies, PE, foreign language. How will your lessons travel with your students through time? Because if you're anything like me, it does your heart so much joy just to see those students grow up, to see students become doctors, to become lawyers, to join the armed forces, to become construction workers, to become, hell yes, teachers. So, just like all those movies on time travel and all those shows about time travel, they are cautionary tales. This time travel business can create and can definitely destroy. But I say to you, do not fear that power. Let us embrace our inner Marty McFly and travel from the past, live in our present, and teach like our futures depend on it. Thank you so much.